Hi, and welcome to Our Voice. We're here at the Grove Hotel where we film, and of course a great venue to come stay if you're traveling from out of town, and if you're in town, come for a stay vacation.
And they have some amazing events here, from sporting events to concerts, but you know what I found out? They have weddings here.
Weddings.
Well,
weddings. I would love to attend. I don't know if I want to be part of a wedding here, but I'd love to attend one. I'm sure they put on a great show. And Bridget Delgatti, who runs the shows here for weddings, will be in to talk about that.
Towards the end of Our Voice, though, so you have to stay with us.
Yes, and in the meantime, Rebecca will be chatting with our guests from ReUseum.
Welcome back to Our Voice. Most of us have heard the term STEM. But here's the thing, we have a new organization in Boise called ReUseum and Re-Ed, and they have taken STEM to the next level. With me today is the founder of Re-Ed and ReUseum, John Schiff. Thanks for being here. And we also have Steve Rodoletz, who is the chairman of the board and also the executive director for ReUseum. So thanks so much. I'm really excited about this program. So starting off, I just want to know, what sets ReUseum apart from other STEM programs in the Valley?
Well, what really sets it apart is, beyond providing direct educational opportunities, we not only provide that, but we try to really make them accessible and affordable.
Right, so you repurpose, like things like toothbrushes and cell phones, and you go in and you have kids work hands-on making robots and making things that are fun that they can use. So it's really kind of like they take things apart, a deconstruction type of surgery, right?
We do. People bring us all sorts of technology that they've lived with for years, but don't want anymore.
Right.
And they don't imagine that they have any use or value. And we do actually repurpose them. Mm-hmm. We find component parts within them and we put them to uses that folks never thought of before, like building robots.
Like building robots, which is fabulous. So with ReUseum, how can the community kind of participate? Do you go to them? Can they come to you? How does it work?
Well, ordinarily, people bring us their donations to our front doors.
Okay.
They can bring us their stereos, their computers, all manner of things with plugs.
Anything with a plug.
And often we find that businesses and institutions will bring us unwanted machinery, industrial equipment, pretty much anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did this idea even come from? It's a unique approach, and you're the founder, so.
Right,
yeah.
right. So I grew up here in Boise, and growing up, as I did a long time ago, I found out we had we had a lot of spare time and not a lot of things to do. So as a result, when you mix energy, youth, and imagination together, you make things, you have great ideas, and let's just say, sometimes you deconstruct a few things.
Right.
And I always thought, man, that'd be great if we had a resource like the ReUseum here in town. And so when I had the opportunity to put it together and move forward with it, decided to do that.
And I bet with what you do, you go out and you teach kids. If kids come to your location and learn as well, you have labs that are going on.
We do.
There has to be some really amazing, I can imagine in science, defining moments for you or a life lesson that you'd like to share. Can you share one first, John?
Well, it's not so much in the classes that we've gone out. I haven't gone out in a lot of those, but I've had a chance to work in the store and kind of seen the people that come in.
Right.
And so, it's really what's a defining moment of knowing, hey, this is really going somewhere, is when you see smart people come in the door that you just would never think, to put it together that, wow, this person is really sharp. But what's even more inspiring is when you see that person helping somebody else that's got a project or find something or whatnot. And, it sounds kind of corny, but, I really get excited when I see people helping other people. And I think that's kind of what it's all about.
What about you?
Well, long ago I met Linus Pauling, and he had 2 Nobel Prizes, and he was always happy and curious and full of
Wow.
wonder. And just a few weeks ago, I met a 3.5-year-old who was in a deconstruction lab we put on in one of our workshops.
So a
Yes,
toddler. Okay,
a person
just
about this
making
big.
sure. Yeah, okay.
And she was as happy as he was. And it was
Wow.
wondrous to see somebody that young, that small, that enthused to find out how things worked.
Right. It's the experience. I mean, it is art. You're adding art, right? To,
We are.
Oh,
to
yeah,
STEM.
yeah.
So it's not just, math, engineering,
Not at all.
technology,
Yeah,
science, but art is a big part of it.
Yeah, if I can interject there, my sister is an artist, and she likes to call it STEAM.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know, and add the A into the word.
Add the A.
Very appropriate.
And
yeah.
I do. I think it's appropriate. And it really is about just expanding your mind and expanding your horizons. I think a critical question is really today in our learning environment, why is STEM or STEAM so critical for our youth? I mean, why is this really a component parents need to care about?
Well, I can take that one.
I'd like to throw this out. At my age, I remember that science used to be something that was one period a day.
Yeah.
And it was something you got through and you went home. I imagine there are people who have no idea how technologically immersed they are. From their
Right.
cell phone to their home computer to the refrigerator that's telling them what's
Your
inside.
thermostat, just to
Your
be in your
thermostat
comfort
that's
stat.
talking to you.
In your car, right?
Your car that's talking to you.
There you
Your
go.
car
There you
that's
go.
driving you.
Right.
And it becomes necessary and it behooves us to create this future. We have to design this, and this goes to the A in STEAM. We have to be artful. We have to be designers. The word engineer doesn't any longer mean people with a slide rule. It means creating things that make the world in our future.
Okay, so if our community wants to participate, how do they participate with ReUseum, and how can they get a hold of you?
Well, a number of ways to participate is bring in your old stuff. You can donate it. We are a nonprofit. You can
Okay,
bring it down to
great.
the store, donate it.
They've
and-
only to give us a call.
Yeah, give us a
Okay.
call. And third and foremost, come down and shop in our high-tech thrift store. It's a
Okay,
really cool
and they can
place.
donate funds, they can donate resources
Oh,
as well
absolutely.
to
Yeah,
help fund the
absolutely.
programs that you're out there teaching to our youth. Okay, so what's your website?
Website is www.reuseum.com and educate.reuseum.org.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, both of you, for
Thank
being
you for
here.
the
I look
opportunity.
forward to seeing how you guys pull things apart, so to speak. Okay,
Great.
coming up next, we have a hot topic with the wild horses here in Idaho. You're going to want to stay tuned. Wild horses are an iconic symbol of the West, and their numbers are managed by the Bureau of Land Management. But if left unchecked, these horses can double in size every 4 years. They gather the horses, and then they offer those horses through an adoption program. So they've created an innovative partnership. And here to talk about some of these solutions and some of the challenges are the Bureau of Land Management. You're part of the Public Affairs Specialist, Heather Tiel-Nelson. And also, we have with us Tina Reay. And Tina Reay, tell us your position at the 4-H.
I'm a 4-H leader for the Lone Star Riders 4-H out of Jim, Boise County.
Right, so you're part of the adoption solution as
Yes.
well. So let's talk about the Borough Act and like what that means, what's going on with that, and how that's impacting Idaho.
Right. So in 1971, the Wild and Free Roaming Horses and Burro Act passed, and it essentially set forth a mandate to the Bureau of Land Management and the Forest Service to manage healthy horses on healthy rangelands. And so at that time, there were about 25,000 wild horses roaming the range in the West in about 10 different Western states. We quickly realized that if left unmanaged or unchecked, a wild horse herd size can actually double every 4 years because they really don't have any natural predators. That's kind of when our adoption program began.
Okay.
Since that act passed in 1971, like I said, we've adopted out or placed into private care over 235,000 wild horses. Right around the late 1990s and early 2000s, we managed to adopt between 8,000 and 9,000 horses every year. Now we're looking at being able to adopt out more like 2,000 to 3,000 horses a year. And it just simply isn't enough to keep pace with the numbers that we really need to remove from the range. Today, we have over 67,000 wild horses on the range. What BLM has determined through our planning process is that the range can essentially sustain about close to 27,000 wild horses on the range. And that's in balance with all the other uses that BLM manages for. So whether it's wildlife habitat or livestock grazing.
Okay.
And so unfortunately what's happened is a lot of our livestock grazing permittees are not able to turn out on their permit because there's simply not enough forage because the wild horse numbers are so great.
Right. And this, for us here in Idaho, what does that mean taxpayer dollars? What does that mean economy? Because it costs a lot of money to maintain a horse. So when you adopt these horses out, one horse costs that adoptee how much, would you say?
Well, what I can speak to, yes, owning a wild horse or owning any kind of a horse is certainly an expensive endeavor. But when we have a wild horse on the public dole, so BLM is supporting all of those horses that have not been adopted go into a holding situation. Now, whether that's a long-term pasture in the Midwest or it's an off-range corral, what we estimate the cost to the American taxpayer for feeding one wild horse over its lifetime is about $50,000.
Wow.
It's tremendous.
It's tremendous.
It's tremendous.
So but if you do the numbers, 230,000 horses have been adopted. You do that stat with $50,000 per horse, and that's what's saving taxpayers
Exactly.
over the course of the years, which is huge. Tina, how do you fit in? How does adoption fit into the solution for the wild horses?
So in 2009, the University of Idaho partnered up with the Bureau of Land Management, and we created a program called the University of Idaho 4-H and BLM Wild Horse Training Program.
Okay.
And we have helped adopt out more than 250 horses in the last 7 years. We've also helped raise more than $15,000 for 4-H clubs in our community.
Wow.
So it's definitely been a win-win for both BLM, for the Mustangs, and for the 4-H youth.
And basically, they're getting these horses adoption ready.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So what does that mean to the average person that's watching this?
Yes. So the youth or the 4-H club will take the horse home for usually around 8 weeks and train them. So the horse is wild, when they
Completely
get
wild.
it,
Yeah.
totally wild. And it's amazing to see what they do. I mean, they train them to pick up their feet, to load in the trailer. You can touch them all over the body, which might seem like
you can't even approach them
right,
to begin with.
exactly.
Right?
So
Right.
not only are they training a weanling or a yearling Mustang for adoption, but they're getting all of that, experience too. So it's definitely a win-win.
Now, if people want to get more involved, let's start with the 4-H. How can they get more involved? I know there's a lot of different ways, so tell us all the different ways, because I'm sure there are a lot of people in our community that want to be part of this solution.
Well, so if you are a horse 4-H leader and if you're interested in participating in this program, definitely contact your extension office.
Okay.
So that would be a great way to partner. We're always looking for adopters. So come to one of the events. If you're looking for a horse that's very well started, come and support those 4-H youth. So, I mean, because if a horse adopts for like $600, $25 goes back to BLM, and the rest of that money goes to the club. So that's a lot of bake sales. So it really helps the 4-H clubs.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I mean, what great information, because I know there's a lot of misinformation out there. And when it comes to wild horses, there's so much that's going on, and there's so much statistically that has already been done. But definitely we need a little more oomph with the solution from our community. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Coming up next, we have Dr. Mac Test. He is talking to Mayor Tammy de Weerd about the programs for youth at Meridian. Stay tuned.
Well, our future really relies on the next generations and our investment that we put in shaping them. Mayor Tammy de Weerd of Meridian is truly making an impact on our youth, and I'm thrilled to have her here and chat about her programs and involvement in Meridian.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, welcome. We're really happy to have you. So, Mayor, one of the things that's really exciting about Meridian is this investment, as I said, in the future generation that you've been making and extremely passionate about the youth. Why are the youth so important to you?
Well, I got involved because of my kids in our community and the lack of parks, but our community is a community of families, and our youth are our number one priority. Actually, the reason I moved to the city of Meridian was because of our schools. And I tell our schools that they're the reason for our growth. We have ideal schools, and it is all about our kids. So that priority is shown in a number of ways, but most recently we opened the gymnasium for the Boys and Girls Club, and that was a community-supported initiative in raising funds because we lacked space. We had kids on waiting lists and raised $3.5 million in less than a year, and just had our grand opening, and it was a delightful day. All driven by the community and their generosity because they support kids.
Oh, that's marvelous. And this involvement of the community is just great to hear. Have you seen that grow in your tenure as mayor, or has it always been sort of part and parcel of Meridian's character, really feeling strong community?
I think it's grown, but I think it's been affirmed. That everything we do, in fact, in our 2014 survey, it showed that our community wanted to see more programming and more offerings for our kids.
Right.
And so that's been a huge initiative of mine and something I'm solely and solidly behind.
Oh, that's great to hear. So I also understand, in addition to this Boys and Girls Club, you've also helped create this inaugural Meridian Youth Farmers Market. So can you tell us about that? I'm sure our viewers all know what a farmers market is, but when you bring the youth in, how is it different? How is it the same? Can you tell me about it?
Well, the Youth Farmers Market is kind of a response to a community desire to have a farmers market. We had one,
Okay.
but it only lasted a couple of years. And in fact, my kids had a booth at it. And I saw the value that it instilled in them in knowing how to deal with a product, how to market it, how to present themselves, how to deal with money, and learn some business strategies behind a hobby. And so this Youth Farmers Market requires that 75% of our vendors are youth. It answers a community desire of having a farmers market, and we're surrounded by successful farmers markets. So this one needed to be unique. So it allows a child to learn about healthy foods, healthy eating, how to grow a hobby into a business, and again, to let our community love on them and help them be successful, in turn answering a community need.
Right. Beautiful. And so they're learning business practices. Now, what about bringing the food to the market? Are they actually growing this in their homes?
Oh,
Or are
yes,
they
it has to-
obtaining it from farmers, you know?
They need to grow it. It has to be locally grown and
Awesome.
or homemade, handmade, because they can have crafts. But we had a preview in last September, and it was very successful. We had 14 youth vendors. My granddaughter was one of them.
Oh, wow.
And it was so cool watching her. She's second grader.
Oh my gosh.
Watching her sell her goods, add up what people owed her, count back the change. I mean, the lessons there were invaluable.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, you've filled me in with lots of great things you've done. What's next? I mean, do you have anything on your radar for the future here? Exciting plans?
Well, a program we just started in our elementary schools last year was Mayor Tammy's Walking Club.
Okay.
And so we had 12 elementary schools that participated. In those schools, we had 6,900 kids, and they walked almost 14,000 miles. That's
That's a lot
7
going
times
back
around the world.
Sure, yeah.
And it gets me out into the schools. It helps me to interact with them. They inspire me.
Right.
And it really teaches them at a young age to learn healthy lifestyles. And I also have a really rewarding program with our teens. It's the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. My selfish reason for it, is I want them to invest in a community that after they go out, they spread their wings, they get their college degree and start their career, that they want to return home to raise their families.
Well, you're definitely creating a great space both for children now and for future generations. It sure seems that way. I'm going to spend more time in Meridian.
Well, you'll need to.
Will you have me in your office for a visit?
Absolutely. There's plenty things to do.
Well, thank you, Tammy, for visiting us on Our Voice. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you.
So we all know that Boise has been a great place to raise a family, a wonderful community, but lately we've seen artists moving in, and it's become a hot spot really for musicians and artists. And lately we've begun Film Fort here, thanks to Noel Hawkes, the director of Film Fort. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And this is also in relation to Tree Fort, am I correct?
Yes, so Tree Fort Music Fest takes place every year in March, and started with music and bringing bands from outside of Boise and also bands from all over Idaho to showcase their work here. And in the second year of Tree Fort, Film Fort started. I haven't been the director since the beginning, but I, for the last year, have been working as the director of Film Fort. So essentially, Film Fort is a film fest within the umbrella of Tree Fort Music Fest.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, I've experienced it, and I'm sure many of our viewers have, and look forward to the next year and many years after that. So why do you think Boise has sort of become now this hotspot for musicians? Is it the community opening up to it? Is it the young musicians and artists finding Boise a more amenable environment for doing their art?
I think it's a combination of both. I think with Tree Fort Music Fest, this is going into its 6th year now. This has been a great way to get people from outside of the area to experience the local culture of Boise and realizing that this is a really receptive audience. And also for the local musicians and artists, this gives them something to look forward to and maybe showcase a new piece of work or a new album or a new film or something when they know that we have an audience not only from our entire community but from all over the country. So we have people who come here specifically for this festival, if not as an artist, as a festival goer. So it's the combination of inviting people here with this specific goal in mind, and then also the local community rallying around the momentum that this has created.
It's been a wonderful experience, I know, for many people here in town. So when we have this small Boise, sort of isolated from the world, bringing in, you don't just bring local artists or Northwest artists, but artists come even from the whole world, is that right? Not the whole world, but from outside. What kind of people do you bring in? I know that you've lived down in Rio de Janeiro and Brazil. Have we seen any Brazilian artists come up here?
We haven't had any Brazilian musicians, but we have showed some films that have something to do with Brazilian culture and international culture. But in terms of the music that takes place at Tree Fort Music Fest, we have international bands, we have national bands. About a quarter of the bands that play at Tree Fort are local, from the local area, the Idaho scene. And so it's a great combination of local artists plus people from all over the country and even international artists. And the films that we screened at Film Fort this past year in March were from all over. So even if the filmmaker wasn't able to be here in person, we had their film to tell the story.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, bringing people from the outside world, many of them probably didn't even know about Boise, Idaho.
No.
What has been their experience? Has the community been very receptive? Have they been sort of surprised at what a wonderful city we have here?
Yeah, they have been. It's been really great. So this was my 3rd season working with Tree Fort Music Fest, and I started as the director for Hack Fort, which is the digital humanities component, and then moved into working with Film Fort this past season. And everyone who I've received as the director of these events has been really enthusiastic about the community that they've found here in Boise. And these are people who are touring all over the world or touring all over the country, either showing their art or speaking about their experiences, educating people. These are thought leaders, and they've had fantastic experiences.
So maybe a trick question, but what's the defining moment or one defining moment that you've had an experience with in developing this, or something fantastic that's happened over the 3 years, or even looking into the future for Film Fort?
Yeah, so with Film Fort, one of the defining moments for me was, when I took over this component of Tree Fort Music Fest last year, I didn't know how I was going to bring these people together or find the films or get people excited about it, and everything just seemed to fall in place. People sort of came to the surface and sent films my way or gave me tips about new things happening, and so it really just seemed to fit, and everyone who attended was really excited. And one thing we did that was super interesting this year is that we gathered an audience at Film Fort that was so diverse in age that I don't think we'd seen that diversity in the Tree Fort crowd before.
So how could people get in contact with you and learn about Film Fort?
Well, we have a lot of information on the website, which is treefortmusicfest.com/filmfort specifically, or just peruse the site for information on the festival in general. And then people can email me. It's Jordan@treefortmusicfest.com.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jordan, for coming to speak with us
you.
today. And I look forward to the next Tree Fort and Film Fort. And coming up next, we're going to talk about weddings.
As promised, we have Bridget Delegati here from the Grove Hotel's banquet staff.
We all know the CenturyLink is a great place to come see sports events, conferences, musical events, but who would have known they actually have weddings here? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, that is correct. And I don't know a lot about weddings, so I'm assuming a lot of details go into it. So what do you guys do as far as taking that pressure off the bride and groom, I guess?
Yeah, really with the Grove Hotel, and I think why so many brides and grooms select us as a venue is because we are a one-stop shop. For guests coming in from out of town, they can be housed right here under our roof. We have a beautiful outside terrace where we hold a lot of ceremonies. And then our ballroom for a great reception and air conditioning, it's all under one roof.
Oh.
So they can come here, they can have their pre-party, pre-dinner, wedding, and then they can stay here,
And
right?
then they can stay here.
And
then they can have breakfast the next day in Emilio's in our restaurant and be on their way.
So they never have to leave. It's the city going on, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So have you had any big names come here and have weddings?
Yes, every bride and groom is a big name. For
Well said.
the guests who are coming to their wedding, it is their big day and a very special day.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's so true. It is such a big event for so many couples. So how can couples get a hold of you if they're interested in having their wedding here?
Yeah, events@grovehotelboise.com.
Okay. Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you for watching, and remember that your voice matters.
Here on Our Voice.